All right, greetings everybody, and welcome to another episode of Anime Anticlimax. This month, we're kind of coming back from a brief hiatus, and we are talking about the anime To Love Ru, which of course was chosen by Kotobukijake, actually. So,
Was it?
yep, it was your choice.
Okay. Yeah, I
So
guess.
So you get to talk to us about this series. Feel free.
Okay. Okay. This is a series from 2008, aired in Japan in April of 2008, and that thus began a franchise that ran for a little while after that. And it has, per IMDb, and incidentally, the directed by Takao name I don't recall offhand. Although from what we hear, very loosely based on the manga, Roger elected not to be with us tonight and said that it was because it was so unfaithful to the manga. Per IMDb, when an alien from the planet Devluk runs away and goes into hiding on Earth, she meets a human named Yukirito. Watch as she wants to get married to him while he wants no part of it. That's the overly simplified version of it. Although it definitely shows how this show does invite comparisons to an earlier series, or Sayatsura, but also invites comparisons to a number of other series. And this one, in turn, influenced probably a whole generation of harem anime. So we'll go ahead and go around the room and do our first impressions. And we'll start with you, Brittany. Is this your first run at this series, and what are your thoughts on it?
Oh, heck no. I've watched this series a couple of times since pretty much it first aired. Watching it in not so legal ways. Um, but on top of that, I also started reading the manga through Shonen Jump because it was a Shonen Jump title, which is rare for people to note that. But yeah, it's definitely one of the more humorous harem animes I can say out there. Even if it's a lot of filler in the first season, uh, definitely enjoyable series in my opinion.
All right, sounds good. Do for your initial
Yeah.
bit? All right. How about you, Brandon? Is this your first go with this, and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, no, definitely not. Actually, I probably watched it not too far after Brittany was watching it because I also watched around the time it aired, and I I watched that one in the OVA and then stopped after that. But I did not read the manga. So I am definitely not in on that. But I saw some parallels between this and Urusei Yatsura, which was an anime that I really liked at the time. So I definitely got some enjoyment out of it, and it's got a wild character of its own that it makes it at least somewhat fun to watch. And I enjoyed revisiting it. I haven't watched it in years, so it was kind of cool to come back to this and just check it out or have an excuse to get my Sentai copies open and watch them.
All right. Very good. As for me, well, Brandon darn well knows this isn't my first viewing because he showed it to me the first time around. This was I know you were trying to broaden my anime horizons, and I know this was one of the ones you put forward as a harem anime. I feel like the main ones actually might have been this one and Love Hina, which is kind of a remix of another Takahashi franchise, because I feel like that one's kind of in some ways, a remix of Mizunokoku. I mean, very, very, very much remixed.
from
But
a current Senate member of Japan, actually, Love Hina.
yes, Ken Akamatsu is now a lawmaker. That is a crazy idea, but kind of cool. But at any rate, the my initial reaction was that I very much enjoyed it. It's a very well, from my standard at least. We may get some debate on this, I guess. I know you guys have seen. I've seen quite a few at this point, but y'all still seen more shows than I have. I do feel that this is a very well made show, whether or not it was faithful to the manga. As a standalone anime production, they really did a solid job, I think. And when we get on to the production and music and all that, we talk some more about that. But it also it's fun. The characters are fun. It is a full-on harem series, but it's also a full-on shonen action series. I know Brandon also, another one from Ken Akamatsu, Negima was another one that Brandon showed me that's similar. It's a full-on harem, but it's also a full-on shonen action series. I mean, the manga even has a tournament arc, which strangely enough is one of the only parts that has not had an anime made out of it. I still don't know how that happened because everything gets a tournament arc. But this one has a lot of. This one does have a sports day.
That one is surprisingly due for a. Everything is being remade these days. That one is due for a remake.
Right. Which one, Negima?
Yep.
Or To Love Root, or both?
Negima.
I think there's a few of them that are kind of, I'm surprised that they haven't, or I would like to see them do it, or, there's a few of them. And then there are totally random ones that get remade that you're like, really? And of course, everyone knows probably who my favorite character in this one is, but I chose a wallpaper image here that showcases two of the central characters and then just a really fun one. But I see your wallpaper here is from later in the series. We got Lala's sisters here, which I've met because I also watched the OVA, which is the only piece of To Love Ru yet to get an American release that I'm aware of. But it introduces the twin sisters, so it's like, what, Sentai? What the hell? Why? But anyway, maybe one day we'll get into the later parts of this series. But I'm surprised you say I put this forward because it's a long show, and I didn't want to do a long show. But anyway, and I didn't get to watch my copy, which pisses me off. I got to watch 3 episodes of my copy and ended up watching the whole thing on High Dive. But anyway, enough of that. We'll get into we said the basic bare bones plot. Now this does have a plot, but it's one of those shows where the plot is the excuse for hijinks, really. when it comes down to it. The main plot is that, yes, Lala has run away from home. She is our character that we see at the right of the wallpaper with the pink hair and the big poofy hat, which is actually an invention of hers that keeps her dressed. Essentially, it's her portable tailor, you could say. Lala does a lot of inventions. She's known for her inventions. Of course, they don't always work.
They never really work.
They seldom work. What's that?
Not the way she intends, at least.
No. They usually work after a fashion, but it's not quite what she intended. Like, they're not complete failures, let's put it that way. But so Lala runs away from home. She's sick of basically living this suffocating princess life, essentially. And she just wants adventure or whatever. And she ends up crash landing on Earth. And immediately I see Sirenji has a doll of our main character, Yukirito. He is, as is often the case in these kind of shows, as is usually the case in these kind of shows, kind of a milquetoast every guy, you know? Not really anything to set him apart. He is the insert yourself here character, which is, like I said, sort of a mainstay of harems. But personally, I think he's a little more likable and interesting than a lot of those characters are. But still, he is the calm center that all the madness runs around. It's not always so calm, because who could be with all that madness running around? But anyway, so I'll go ahead and throw it out to you guys. What are y'all's thoughts on these two central characters, Lala and Yukirito?
I mean, Lala very much is Lum from Ursa Yasura. For those who haven't seen, except instead of being the crass and anger that we get with Lum when she gets upset, we get the brain dead, just overly happy Lala, with the exception of a few times when she gets really, really weird.
Yeah, I feel like she got.
Okay.
I feel like it was basically Lum, but you remove the anger and jealousy. Basically,
Lum, but less of a
tsundere from Lum.
That's how I say it. Lum, but less of a bitch.
She's
But
she's the one of the few people in a harem anime that's like, oh no, I don't mind having other harem members.
yeah, she knows how to share. But I would slightly disagree with you calling her brain dead, though. I think she's smarter than Lum. Like I said, her inventions don't always work. She's not exactly
not street smart. Let's put it that way.
She is definitely naive to the ways of Earthlings. She definitely does not know how things are supposed to work here. That is true. She is a good study, I think. I haven't seen the later seasons, but I feel like in this one, in the OVA, she does pick up a lot. She starts off from a point of not having a clue how the Earth works, basically. But yeah, I would say she's not dumb, just naive and lacking in certain, as you said, street smarts, but in this case, Earth smarts. And a lot of the other aliens that come in seem a little bit sharper than her. But from what I've seen, I guess planet Devoluke never gave Earth a second thought, because most of the Devolukians are just about as naive as she is when it comes to this planet. And it looks like we lost Brittany for a bit there.
Well, we just got to keep running.
Yeah,
She'll be back.
yep. She shall, hopefully. What about our main character? What are your thoughts on him, Brandon?
Who was it? Sorry. I couldn't.
That's what a lot of people. That's what a lot of people would say. Yukirito, the protagonist, theoretically at the center of it.
You see,
Right.
you could compare the character to Ataru, but I wouldn't.
No.
The character is like almost the opposite of Ataru. Except for he shares one thing in common with Ataru, and that is horrible luck. But otherwise, I mean, and he is the opposite of Ataru in pretty much everything else, including the fact that he is very bland and not as memorable.
He's very dim-witted to the girls after him. He really only has focus on Sairenji. But no one else.
That Lala's after him. But, you know.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is one of the things that does set him, it almost makes him the opposite of Ataru. He does develop a great deal of affection for Lala, and he's definitely likes a lot of the other girls. He's not like put off by most of them. A couple of them are annoying. But really, he has eyes for Sairenji, for I believe it's Haruna Sairenji. He has eyes for Haruna Sairenji, and that is it. She is his aim true love. But like many guys, especially guys who are unlucky like he is, and who are kind of naive and not so street smart, kind of like he is oblivious to her affection. And of course, she is, the requisite longtime friend slash. Well, she's kind of the combination of like the long-term friend slash childhood friend, but also the secret crush and all that kind of stuff. But any harem, there's going to be at least one girl who's already there in their orbit, who gets pulled in closer when the force of nature, in this case Lala, comes in. And of course, Lala, again, I think Brittany, you mentioned that she doesn't have Lum's jealousy, but Lala glomps onto Haruna too, and they become BFFs right away. And it's kind of crazy.
Well,
it's
Lala,
like they're almost totally opposite. Yeah.
Lala's willing to be friends with any of the girls. It doesn't matter. I mean, the only one she has pretty much a friendship with at the beginning when they meet is Run.
Though I'd have to wonder about that friendship, really,
right?
Considering how Lala was when she was a young
child of chaos.
Weird case in some way, in many ways. But we
yes.
Yeah.
And Jake muted himself.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead while we've got the moment here. I'm going to give a little note here of the creators of this series. They are Saki Hasame, who's usually an anime writer, and Kentaro Yabuki, who is the original creator of this, but also Sake joined him joined him as the writer in this after he worked on his first series, Black Cat, which is a very popular shonen anime as well in the past. And also, Kentaro currently has series that I absolutely love, but I hate the way the enemy's being treated, which is the worst censorship of all time, and that is Akashi Triangle. It's on hiatus because of COVID in the studio, but hopefully we'll see that series come back, and hopefully they'll tone down the censorship.
Well, you never know.
Yeah. Another thing to note, Kentaro, his first job was to create the combination of Gohan and Trunks when they fused together in Dragon Ball. And he was mentored by the creator of Death Note.
It's an odd combination, really.
Yeah.
And there goes Jacob. Well, we lose one, and then gain one back, and then we lose the other one.
I stepped in. I had to cut off to see if I could get my headphones working.
But yeah, I mean, the series itself has some fun steps to it, and again, it's all about the various female characters that come across. And one thing I do think that is very similar to Urusei Yatsura is a lot of the series revolves around strange aliens that show up and just create general chaos. And Lala is the center, much like how Lum is the center of the chaos in Urusei Yatsura.
I love some of these episodes in the concept of it's sort of like an old Bugs Bunny cartoon where it just gets weirder and weirder as we go. And it just makes, it's a joyous laughter. And it's one of those good series that if I always want a good laugh, I'll go to this series. We have to state the elephant in the room. When I stated the Akashi Triangle was bad in censorship, this one was one that was not censored originally. And, his internet went out. But yeah, basically To Love Haru, you can find it on High Dive, but you got to go through the website. You can't go through the app because it's not on the app. But you can see it and it's uncensored. That's the way you buy it on DVD. Is uncensored.
And if you can find it on the, actually, they've got a complete collection now out that has everything except for the OVA.
Yeah, which is interesting there. But I mean, by uncensored, yeah, it's mostly topless. A few butts in the picture. Gratuitous and nudity that is expected in a harem anime, honestly.
I think this one goes a little bit farther than some, but not as far as others.
Yeah. I mean, this D&D or DXD is probably a little worse with the nudity and the flat-out sexual references. And that came after this series, so that tells you something.
So let's see. Well, of course, we were talking about characters. Of course, Rito has a sister, and she's got a lot more of the common sense. She's almost got a fun spirit to her, and of course, she uses it to be supportive, but also pick on Rito at the same time. And I guess, what does everybody think of the sister character?
She's very much the mature one.
Yeah.
And she does all the chores. She takes care of the household, and she's the younger sister.
Yeah, Mika and Yuki is definitely definitely the responsible one in that group, and in that family. It's kind of like the sisters in K-On!, but Rito's not as much of an airhead as Ely is, but I think there's Mikan's a fun character.
She keeps a cool head in the chaos.
Yeah. Right.
And there's a lot of chaos.
Yes, indeed. I mean, Lala basically just shows up, announces her engagement, moves right in. I don't know if y'all mentioned Zastin yet, but he's basically ever present Forrest kind of watching over Lala, just showing up.
Almost every episode he's bit by that dog or pissed on by that dog.
Right. And almost every episode it seems Rito will like walk downstairs or come into the house and Zastin's just sitting in the dining area with Mikan, and he's served him some sort of snack, and they're just hanging out, and it's like, yeah, he's essentially there as a kind of comic relief, but also as a sort of handy exposition piece. Like, if Lala needs a warning that her father's coming to visit, for example.
Well, and keep in mind, and this is one thing that is true enough, Lala and the Devil Duke family are not the good guys in the universe. Matter of fact, I could say that they're probably the best equivalent would be the evil empire in most RPGs, and the Devil King is her father, essentially.
Oh, absolutely! It's flat out Star Wars Empire here with the family.
But hey,
she's sort of the black sheep of the family, but yeah.
But I mean, and what I find is interesting is at the beginning, I mean, one of the ways that he notices her is that she's there. It looks like she's being hunted, and I will give it this: the main character does show a couple of times that he's cool, and he definitely knows how to kick a soccer ball, but he just automatically goes to save her until he finds out the real reason why she's being hunted. She's just running away from home.
Right. So, of course, though, his way of finding himself into the engagement is a little purer than Ataru's.
But it's similar in that sense too, because it's still the same, proposal, and the other woman ends up being there instead of the one that he's proposing to.
Right. Actually, this one also does have a scene later, though. It's like the opening's a little different, but later on, there's the part where the Earth is under threat and he has to be the one to save it. Although,
the seasoning and ending.
Yeah. Which brings us back to the whole idea that there's a little bit of a plot here, because, you do have this thing where this runaway happens to be the scion of a intergalactically infamous dictatorial regime, and they want her back, and eventually that does come to cause some problems for Earth, potentially. And in the meantime, you have... What's up?
The king does give a fair shot. He says you just need to prove yourself a man among men.
Yeah. Well, he said you have to prove yourself the greatest in the universe.
Greatest in the universe.
Yeah. He doesn't really specify at what, which is kind of a nice loophole.
That was the point.
Right.
And about half the season is Rito literally frustrated on how he's going to prove that he's the greatest in the universe at something.
Yeah. Right. Because he really doesn't seem to be. He doesn't. Again, he's kind of the bland milquetoast character. There's very little he excels at. other than apparently assembling a harem without even trying.
Well, I've noticed that
What's that?
I mean, basically, most harem male leads are going to be the bland milquetoast.
Right.
With the exception of maybe Ataru Moriboshi from Urusei Yatsura, where he's just the hugest pervert in the world.
Yeah, because that's that idea of substituting yourself for the character. So if you end up making the character too much of a standout, then it's harder to substitute yourself into that character's shoes. But and I'll say this series really is in two parts. I mean, the first part is really character introductions, and then the second part is all about basically Rito having different adventures, so to speak, to try and be the best at something. And it's separated pretty much by him meeting Lala.
And you have a number of other. Well, I guess we got to mention the other. I guess the other major harem members. We've got the. Let's see, what is her name? The one I want to mention next. It's
which one is it?
The rules lawyer. Let's call her that. Kotagawa. Is that one?
Kotagawa. Yeah.
Is that Kotagawa? Yeah,
I believe it's Kotagawa.
Kotagawa. What's that?
She's a tsundere character.
She absolutely is a tsundere.
Yeah, and very much the the requisite class rep type. I believe she actually is the class rep in this one. Sometimes they play with that, and it'll be like the actual class rep is the last person you would want, like a certain individual from Pony Pony Dash. And sometimes, but with this one, it's she seems kind of spot on for the role, and she kind of gets introduced because there's all this insanity whirling around this one guy who she naturally blames for all of it. And but of course, in typical tsundere fashion, it's not long before she starts follow along, I guess you could say.
Well, I mean, she basically blames Rito from the get-go that it's all his fault. Obviously, it's his fault. And then she discovers, no, it's not his fault. It's everybody else's fault.
Well, technically, it still all rotates around Lala at the end. All of the chaos just flows around her like a tide pool.
Right. But, like everyone else pretty much, she becomes very good friends with Lala. And so it's much easier for her to pass her resentment off on Rito. And then we've got, I cannot remember the name of the Ojo-sama, but you do have your typical Ojo-sama character.
She's in the background down there with the two girls at her side. If you look at
her two lackeys, yes. And she really is the typical Ojo-sama in a lot of ways. She basically declares herself Lala's rival, but she also becomes the joke rival character pretty much. And having the two lackeys who are her, eternal companions, just in a sense, just kind of adds to the joke a little bit. One of them
is Saki.
Secret.
Saki is the.
Saki.
Saki's the. Yeah.
Yes. It's been a minute. Yes. Saki Tenjoin. Yes. Now that I see that, I don't know why I don't recognize the. Well, there's too many names here.
This is definitely a harem with no roof on it for characters.
she
Right.
technically only latches on to Rito as a way of, well, I will seduce him because that'll one up me
Yeah.
to Lala. But I think that she develops some feeling towards him as you go along, especially if you go to the end. But most of the characters do at that point. I mean, there's only really one more. I don't really count Darkness as a part of the harem, even though I guess you could,
Yeah.
but I don't really.
Good. Well, we'll
Run
definitely
is the
talk
only
about.
one of other ones. Otherwise, I consider part of the harem group that you have there.
I was going to say we have two more aliens who could definitely be considered part of the harem. You got Run slash. Well, it's like Run and Ron, right? Am I remembering correctly?
Yeah, Run and Ron. Even though it's Run and Ran.
Yeah, and one of them they change gender by sneezing, which is a kind of an unfortunate quirk to have, I suppose. But I guess
it's kind of a nod. It's a kind of a nod, as I stated. He was working with Toriyama through Dragon Ball, so it's probably a nod to Launch, who changed personalities through sneezing.
Okay. I was going to say it's also probably a nod to Ranma, but and it's probably no more unfortunate than changing when water gets splashed on you. But but basically when they sneeze, they change, and the male form is apparently an old acquaintance of Lala who, if I recall correctly, rather wanted her, but also was very, 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 very hessed with being manly.
Well, he was that way because Lala kept trying to dress him up as a girl.
Oh, right.
And bully him.
Okay, so this was also a takeoff on characters who were kind of also probably going back to Sayatsu with Ryunosuke, probably a little bit there.
A little bit.
Or even Ukyo chose to dress as a man after Ranma rejected her, even though he didn't realize what was going on.
Now, I will have to make a nod while we're still on Ron and Rune. The current series that the creator is working on, Akiashi Triangle, the character appears in the series, showing the connection of the world. It's only been Rune that's been showing up there, but of course, Black Cat. When we get to the next character, which is, I'm guessing, Golden Darkness, you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
She is based off of Lily from Black Cat, which was his first series.
We need to cover that one of these days. It's a good series.
I need to see that. I'd forgotten it was the same. But yeah, so of course, female character of this run is almost the opposite, like hyper girly in a lot of ways, but very demure and absolutely in love with Rito.
That's because she remembers the kiss that he shared with the male half.
Oh yes.
One of my favorite episodes is with Rune. It's them at the water park. And she goes through days of becoming an idol, but all in like an hour.
Yeah.
Well, she didn't waste time becoming a stalker.
Actually, it's one of that's kind of an amusing thing that gets done every now and then. Probably gets done more often than it should. But they kind of did the same thing with the male half, right? With the whole basically becoming Rocky and like becoming like champion of the world and all that stuff. They did the same thing, with the female half become like this ultimate idol or whatever. And you're right, like in the span of an afternoon. And
she grabs a random middle-aged
I guess in about a month we'll be covering a live action equivalent to that when they go into town during Wet Hot American Summer.
I love to go into town, even if it's just for an hour or so.
It's just for, but
I mean, they literally, I believe Rito actually says that you've been gone for about an hour. So it's like, okay.
right. But yeah, that was kind of a fun. And of course, any of these shows have to have a water park or beach episode. That's a given. And it does check off most of the boxes. There's like the culture festival episode, and there's the water park episode, and there's a lot of the ones that you would expect to find. Although they do them well, and like I said, they're quite enjoyable. And yes, it is probably no secret that when I saw this, my favorite characters tended to be sort of the flat affect type characters, the ones that didn't seem to show a great deal of emotion, especially if there was something different about them. Yes, Golden Darkness, aka Yami-chan, has always been one of my favorites in this show. And yeah, she is kind of a tangential member. Like she's not
a member of the harem. She just sticks around for because she just wants to kill Rito.
Well, but she does. Well, she does partly out of affection for him, though. Like she basically she is sent here as an assassin, and she is considered like one of the great assassins across the galaxy. And she finds herself unable to actually kill him. Like once I'm not remembering specifics at this point.
She doesn't find him that she can't kill him. She just doesn't want to kill him. She wants to kill him on her terms only. So she'll continuously attack.
Yeah, she doesn't really put much effort into killing him, so she's it's always like passive.
Because she's enjoying her.
That's what I'm saying. Well, that's part of it. I think it's partly that she loves taiyaki. That's like her thing. She just absolutely loves taiyaki. And also there's another character who's not part of the harem, but harem shows very frequently will have a sexy older character. In this case, it's a nurse who we come to find out actually is also an alien.
Wasn't there
another trope in the alien
ones?
And that's Ryoko Mikota.
Yeah. But she actually kind of takes Yami under her wing a little bit. She gives her places to stay. And so they kind of, I think you're right. Like Yami, one of the reasons she sticks around is she likes Earth, and she just is having fun doing something different and not just being a living weapon all the time. But she is a living weapon. And actually, one of my favorite moments in the series is when she's going around looking for work.
Yeah,
and she's trying to find. And everyone looks at her like, "What?"
I mean, the fact that she also looks like she's a middle schooler the entire time.
Yes, she is the goth loli character in this one, or pseudo goth at least. She does dress in black, and one could say the outfit has sort of almost.
Well, it's definitely she's definitely a loli. There's no argument there.
But yeah, and so. Like I said, though, I think she genuinely does kind of like Rito, and she does like Lala, and she doesn't want to hurt them, but she also does not want anyone else to do it. And that's partly professional pride. Like, whether or not she actually wants Rito dead, she does not want anyone else to take her kill. So that's she's almost protecting him against other comers because she's not the only assassin sent after him. Of course, most of the ones that we meet are kind of incompetent.
I used to actually really dislike the character, but I actually liked her better this time around because I could see much more subtlety in it. I think I was getting sick of those types of characters at the time, so it was like another one of these, huh?
Right.
And there's like another one of these characters that beats up the main character, and that's supposed to be funny. So that was how my original response it was, and it's a little bit more subtle than that, which is there.
And we mentioned this before, like anime cannibalizes itself all the time. But really, when you think about it, almost any medium will. If you're looking at American animation, if you're looking at or like live action sitcoms, if you're looking at live action police procedurals, whatever, they're always stealing blatantly from what came before. And so,
especially these days. Well, I mean, even that. I mean, especially these days where everything lives off of nostalgia of something else.
Right. But basically, my point, where I was going is, we've touched on this with some of the previous shows we've covered. What you think about the characters will largely depend on where you are in that learning curve, I guess you could say. I mean, again, for me, this was one of my early harem anime. This was one of my early kind of alien craziness kind of comedies. You know, there were a few things that were kind of first time for me. And yes, there's a lot about Golden Darkness that I'd seen before. There's a lot about Rune I'd seen before. There's stuff about Mikan I'd seen before. But they were still fresh enough that in my mind they stuck. And, you know, and I would rate them a little more highly than I would a lot of the shows that have come since or that I've seen since, even if they were, you know, and I'm sure you guys are kind of the same way with some of these characters.
For me, I don't really like harem that often. I like it when it's something new and unique. But this is one of the good series I can say, you know, if you want an introduction to what a harem anime is, this is it. It's a lighthearted series. It's mostly jokes and humor. And it's just an enjoyable series. It tells a decent plot, even though there's a lot of filler in this first season. But yeah.
The original topic for the discussion was a harem month, so I guess this was a good choice for that.
Right. Definitely it is. And I agree with Brittany. Like, this is, if you're looking for one that's going to be kind of like a prototypical one, this was not the first, but it was definitely one of the, I would say it was ahead of the huge cluster of harem that ended up coming out in the 2010s. And, you know, there were a lot of them in the aughts, and this was, again, near the end of the aughts, but it kind of, I think, kind of reinvigorated something that, like, in the late 90s, you had basically, like, Love Hina and Tenchi and a couple of them kind of really set the ball rolling. You know, we had earlier ones, like Ursa Yatsura would qualify.
I mean, Ursa Yatsura started the genre, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there aren't that many current ones out. The only one I can come to mind that actually successful, other than some reverse harems, has been High School DxD. And then the reverse, in the case of the reverse air harem, it'd be I Am the Villainous series, where you have a character who unequivocally does an omni harem, in my opinion. The only one where you have the main character fall both sexes in love with them.
You do have shows that have played with that, like Ranma did, because he had both the male and female halves. But you're saying like just one.
This is without the gender change. This is just one straight female.
Yeah. Actually, with Ranma, the 5th season opener, Zettai, was a great illustration of that, because there's like he's running, all these women all around, running, and then these guys are around him. He takes a breath, and then they splash water on him. He turns into a girl. It's like, I love that opener. It's not my favorite song, but I love the visuals for it. But this show does also have other side characters of note. You've got the 2 requisite best friend characters for Sairenji, and I'm not remembering their names offhand. They're both mildly.
I don't remember them either.
Very supportive.
Well, I mean, they're sitting in the back, with one of them. Yeah, if you're looking at this on YouTube, you can see them in the back. One of them has her fist in the air, and the other one with the glasses to the side.
Right, they're right behind.
Then you have Rito's best friend.
Yeah, who I love that he is named Saruyama. That is hilarious to me. He is Monkey Mountain.
So one of my favorite things in this series and characters, we talk about side characters, is the magical girl from the Magical Girl show that they watch on TV. They even do an episode of it as one of the later ones, where she basically burns everything to the ground. And
I will purify the world by burning it.
And I swear that she was an inspiration for the creation of Mega Man.
I'm pretty sure I'm sure Mega Man is a straight up nod to the character. I'd be surprised if it.
They have a lot of similarities to each other.
Oh, and just for the viewers, if you're not watching the current Konosuba series, which is the Mega Man series, you're missing some flat out connections from the original series and just some slap in the face humor. This is just beautiful.
Yes, and incidentally, for those of you who missed it, we have covered the first season of Konosuba on here. That would be a fun one.
First and second, actually, we covered both.
Oh yeah, right. We did this. We did the proper show. We did not do the movie or the the prequel hadn't come out yet. Because this is a prequel, right? About Mega Man's.
Yeah, this is from her becoming a classmate, learning the explosion magic, and then going to Axis, and what happens to basically get to that point. And you see that she created a lot of the problems, especially with Aqua's cult. She taught them to basically how to be, scam people in the face.
Right.
So the only character really character left is Lala's father, and
well, there's the principal too.
Yeah, well,
no, there is the principal, which. Another staple, maybe not of harem specifically, more like high school anime, is the weird ass principal. In this case, he is a portly old gent who is perverted as hell.
See, I could hear the whole high school girls thing that what was it? That was in
that was Shiro from the original Fruits Basket anime, not from the sequel or the new series.
I'm sure they would have. I mean, the sequel was done more recently. I have a feeling that would be much.
Well, the original or the remake. It's not a sequel; it's a remake, and they told the story as it was in the manga fully.
Right.
I still need to.
And I've read much of the manga, but not all of it. And from what I remember, they definitely played up his pervertedness in the original anime.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
they
But
played
the,
the first anime more towards humor than because I've seen the first season of
Yeah.
the retelling, and they definitely played up a lot more of the humor in the original Fruits Basket anime,
Yes.
which is fine. I enjoyed that one. I thought it was very good.
Well, it did upset the creator, though. So they weren't a fan of the original series that came out, so they wanted the remake. And good for them to get us the remake because it told the full
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
So,
I need to and yeah, the original ended with so much story left. It was like, this was a but anyway, and we'll have to cover that one eventually. We'll definitely either the original or the remake or both. Not both at once. But I think we and yes, the other major character is the Lala's father,
King.
Gil. What's his full title? Oh, Gid Luciane Deviluc. And he is
A Napoleon complex.
Yes, you see these shadows where it's very imposing and ominous voice and all this stuff, and then you finally see him, and you're like, he's
Rito thinks he's a literally kindergartner.
Yes, he thinks he's like a lost child or something. And it's he finally makes his appearance and basically feels that Rito is not worthy of his daughter, of course. And yes, he sets that challenge of you need to be the best in the universe. And basically, and it also kind of forces Rito to reckon with the idea that, he wants Sarenji, but he is technically engaged to someone who clearly adores him and whose father could destroy his entire sector of the universe.
Yeah, and if you're wondering what was the original plot in the manga, you did get the character introductions and you did get this challenge from the king. So these were original moments in the series, whereas most of the little filler episodes, like the hot spring. I don't know if the hot spring was a real one or not because it's been a while since I read the series. But I mean, it's more joke of the week type stories.
Yeah.
Right. I did not like the second half of it. I liked the first half of it. And a very happy greeting to Michael McNally. Great to see you. Hope you enjoy having us back. Hopefully we'll be back on our monthly schedule again.
Well, next month is an easy one to get through.
Oh yeah. So yeah, but I did not like the second half as much. A lot of the stories were just basically one-offs. There were a couple that stuck out to me, like when he tried to open the hotel. And of course, Golden Darkness actually agreed to call off killing him while she lived at the hotel.
She got free room and board. I'd do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But to me, a lot of it felt like filler. That is what
a lot of it was. A lot of it was.
Then it was correct.
Yes, it was.
Of course.
So yeah,
that last episode where he sets up the obstacle course.
Yeah. And see, that is kind of an eternal debate, I guess, between manga fans and anime fans. Is it's very rare that I can actually compare the two when I'm watching it or when it's very rare I can compare the two very well. And I cannot think of very many where I was familiar with the manga where I just could not get into the anime. But there were a couple where the anime suffered. And when we did our discussion on Korean, I talked about how much that one suffered from the inclusion of winter, among other things. Rosario Vampire suffered from... What's that?
I mean, I did state the current series that this creator does, IXT Triangle, the anime has been butchered by censorship. I mean, they're not even flashing anything. It's like maybe you see a crease in the crotch area under his skirt, and they're putting a huge picture on top of it. It's like all over that series, and it just is killed it. And then by episode 5, they're doing a clip show.
Oh wow!
So yeah, the anime just got treated poorly for the latest series of this creator, which is he's doing a harem again. He's thrown in a little bit of Rama one half with the gender bend of the main character, but it's a harem with the two love interests and different versions of them in different ways. Like the male and versus female version sides of the main character, or the past life of the female character has come back magically, fighting with her for the female role, and then now her younger self also fighting.
Okay.
So I mean, the same creator is still creating harem anime to this day. Or manga to this day.
Right. Well, you have those kind of examples too, where things just kind of go sideways because of things. Well, again, censorship could be one of them, but the only time I can really think where I was watching a show, I've seen episodes where I'm like, okay. Yeah, that had to have been a filler episode. I've seen those. But the only time I can think of where it really, really weighed down the show overall, the one that really comes to mind, of course, was Naruto, where they basically ran out of story and decided to keep going for, what was it, another 50, 60 episodes?
And Naruto and Bleach are both horrible contenders on it. One Piece a little bit, but One Piece likes to stretch out their episodes based off of manga chapter. Sometimes they'll do even just half a chapter and cover that in the anime instead of doing it a full chapter. And it stretches out in a different ways than Naruto and Bleach did. Which Bleach almost destroyed itself in filler, because it kept giving Ichigo powers that he didn't have.
Yeah, One Piece will also, and a lot of these shonen shows will do it, but I've seen more One Piece, I think, that did it than other shows, where they'll spend so much time on the recap that you lose a couple to 5 minutes of the show. But
Hitman Reborn was pretty bad too on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still fun,
but basically,
definitely a lot. Well, actually, they structured it differently.
But I mean, Naruto's a good example because they got to the point where they were like, okay, we can't progress the canon, so we'll basically let's remix the teams which was not a bad approach. And some of those were good episodes, but you could see that the overall production value dropped because it was like, we're just putting this out, and it's like, but anyway,
they weren't spending much budget on those episodes.
I've gotten to really just like the typical filler episode where they always reimagine the characters in ancient Japan.
Oh, they did do that with this one, yes. That where Saroyama is having that weird series of dream. Were they dreams?
I-
Sort of.
The only thing I liked about that episode was that Lala just kept putting him under by beating the shit out of him.
Right. See, she was basically kind of a Yankee type, or like just sort of almost a gangster type, which is so against type for her. It was amusing. And a couple of them were amusingly against type, and it was kind of fun seeing them beat on Sarayama. But yeah, it's. That really that
No, I don't mean in the dream. I mean out of the dream. Lala just kept knocking him out with a freaking mallet.
Oh, right. What was it she was trying to do? She was trying to help him go to sleep, or trying to
trying to help him go to sleep.
Yeah. Okay. And he
kept complaining
him
about
out.
he kept complaining he couldn't sleep because he's having nightmares. So he's like, I'm gonna put you to sleep.
Yeah. So basically, I think that was the last episode before things got serious, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Because I mean you get the Lala gets sick after that, and that's where she gets her split personalities.
Yeah,
and now that was in the manga because it leads into the final. So yeah, it was interesting. Go ahead.
Right. It basically, in a sense, well, in a very real way, they basically took the central female love interest, if you will, and just kind of reassigned her to all the other roles of the harem, in a sense. Like, I think Sairenji basically was the one that he met first, if I remember correctly. The really, really cute, really shy.
Mm-hmm.
And the shifting personalities.
What's that?
The shifting personalities. The first one that comes out, because it's all Lala, is the shifting personalities. Right. Lala starts out as shy, and that actually gets, Rito really on. He kind of likes it.
She's his
yeah.
It's like I said,
but each day Lala becomes a different personality, and she becomes like the heavily athletic character to she does become like a gangster at one point. The final one being she becomes exactly what her dad wanted her to be, this dictatorship, evil ruler.
Right, and she basically drafts Sarayama and the two girls as her foot soldiers and Sairenji, and gives each of them a column of golems to go forth and wipe the,
Well, they all listen to their general, which is the worst part. They all listen to their general, so when they're trying to fight each other, they just go after each other.
Right. Well, it ends up being very helpful because when Rito comes in, it's like, no, I don't want this. I don't want to take over or whatever. The two girls are on about it. They're like, well, why not?
Well, that's because they were promised Hawaii, and the friend was promised Hawaii. One of the girls was promised the Caribbeans, and the other one was promised, I think, Australia.
I think so, yes. And then, but Sairenji, she didn't want to, and then when Rito's like, no, don't do this, she ends up ordering her golems to keep the others from taking over, and it's gets interesting. But yeah, it was kind of that was an interesting episode. I mean, I believe the doctor did call it a reversal virus, but
Yeah.
really only the first person was really a reversal. After that, it just kind of got random. But yeah, but as you said, marching closer and closer to what her old man really wanted. And yeah, I believe at some point she did acknowledge, or maybe the nurse said that like these were not Lala, but they were Lala, like they were aspects of her. So
Yeah,
we
they're
got to see basically
aspects.
versions.
Yeah, they're aspects basically of how other people want to see Lala. So the first one being how Rita would want to see Lala. The athletic one would probably be the one, is it Suki or Saki? The competitive nature one.
Yeah.
There was the Sundari version, which was the typical friend Sundari character. That's like, I made you lunch, but you don't need to work, eat this. Just that kind of personality. It's like, okay, I don't know who that really comes off as. But then the final one being the way her father would want her to be. But I mean, it is interesting to see that while her father was proud of her to see that, she's not. Basically, he does accept that. No, she's her. I can't change that.
Right. Of course, at that point, he does arrive and he basically takes her hostage and then sets a challenge to her. Basically, like, you need to get to me. That is your challenge. You need to get to me. And if you don't, by this time, Earth will be destroyed.
It's kind of ironically the way Earthside sort of begins. With the aliens threatening to destroy the world.
Earlier, because basically Ataru was chosen, and he had to play a game of tag with Lum, and he was supposed to grab her horns, right? Am I remembering that?
He had a week to grab her horns.
He ends up exposing a different part of her anatomy, and that distracts her long enough for him to succeed. And I believe that was what caused their engagement, was the way that he won.
Well, he at the end of catching her horns, he's going on about how he and the girl Shinobu can finally get married, and Lam mistakes it for. They can finally get married.
Yeah, it's that whole thing of basically she shows up at the very wrong time or right time, depending.
Well, she didn't show up. She was there. He just said it in the worst place.
Yeah. Ataru was just a grade A moron.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, it was Lala that just showed up at the right time.
Yeah.
And in this case, Sarenji is not Shinobu. They are very different characters.
No. Shinobu is a very, very violent character.
Yes. And freakishly strong and so forth.
Ironically, Takahashi has a lot of violent female characters.
Yes, she does. Yes, and she doesn't really need tsundere characters because most of her characters have tempers. But anyway, that aside, I didn't even realize we had a new-ish manga by her on our shelves at the library. Apparently, Mao is her. I did not realize this somehow.
Yeah,
I need to read that.
She's still releasing manga, and I mean, she's one of those people that you gotta be impressed because I I think the only creator I could state is the same creator of Oshinoko and Kageyama Love is War that's willing to be like, you know what? A weekly series isn't enough for me. Let me take on another series.
Right.
Most manga creators are like, no, weekly stuff.
Right. Well, we were talking about this earlier, actually, talking about super prolific authors. Like, there's a running joke in my work, and I hope we don't tick the man himself off if he probably has ears everywhere. But there's a running joke with James Patterson that there's no way he writes even a fraction. He writes a fraction of what's got his name on it. But there's no way that he is the driving force behind the wheel of most of what comes out with.
Oh no, he's got ghostwriters as well known.
There's just so much of it. But you know, it does bring the. Some people are genuinely prolific because they just want to write. Some people just love writing, or they feel absolutely compelled to do it. And then you have the other people like me that it's almost painful, and I don't enjoy it, but I enjoy when it gets done.
I mean, I'm a good example of someone who loves to do it. I mean, I'm going to be doing 2 comics in a few weeks, rarely as releases, and I write novels on top of it and do streaming. So I love to create, and I'm just addicted. It's like I got free time that annoys me to just sit there and do nothing.
Indeed. I can't just sit around either, but it's very rare I'm able to focus the energy creatively like I'd like to. But anywho, what was I going to say? I think obviously he wins, but not after a lot of not without a lot of struggle, but to his surprise,
he gets by with a little help from his friends.
He does get by with a lot of help from his friends. Not a little, a lot.
A lot, yes. A lot of them are literally sacrificing, not sacrificing their lives, but they are essentially sacrificing.
They're sacrificing parts of them. Especially with the rapey.
They are definitely sacrificing some clothing. Yes. Several of them sacrifice clothing.
Not just clothing.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's a rapey plant. It's not a. I don't know if you could possibly get away with that to this day because it's really on the edge of hentai at that point.
Yeah. The show definitely does have a lot of fan service, but parts of it do veer a little ways in that direction, definitely. And you're right. Some of the stuff that happens in those obstacle course is, pretty edgy. But yeah, in the end of the day, he ends up. I'm going to have to admit I can't remember what specifically he is the best at.
He's the best
for Lala, essentially.
Yeah, best love for Lala. That's what it is.
Basically, he is the best in her eyes. Basically, is what I was thinking. But I guess that is about the same. And he finally acknowledges that, and But then she does this weird move where she decides, I'm going to make everyone forget about me. She basically,
she does an MIB.
I think. What's that?
She does an MIB. Tries to erase everybody's memories.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, she tries to do an MIB and obliviate, what have you. She basically wants to. Part of it is she, I think, has come to the realization that she kind of forced herself on Rito, and I think I don't know if she's quite picked up on his interest in Sarenji at this point. I think she has, but she does. She wants it to feel earned.
I mean, the king's basically after they win, the king's basically like, all right, you're gonna get married now. And Sarenji, he's kind of hesitant because like, I still like Sarenji. I can't go with one or the other.
Yeah. And it's like I said, she makes it look like she's just going to do this and walk away. But then, you know something's up. And the next day they're in class and the teacher's like, I'm going to introduce a new transfer student. And she comes in all cheerful and happy. And everyone's just like, hey, what's going on? You know, like they just greet her like an old friend. And she's like, what happened? I erased everyone's memories. And someone pipes up, your inventions never work. But like I said, it was kind of, I think she was genuinely thinking, I don't want to leave, but I want to earn my place here and not, so it didn't go the way she planned, but I guess she got an A for effort.
Without the memory wipe, they were going to blow up the planet.
Yeah.
Basically, it was either marry her or not. So the memory wipe was the best way to try and erase the proposal.
True. And I guess we don't really know for sure if her father knows that not everyone remembers her.
No, her father knows it. Her father knows it. It's basically, it's well known that Lala's inventions don't work, even in her own family.
Yes, okay. So yeah, and then like I said, that's basically the end of the season. Do you guys feel like there were some major plot points that you want to hit that I didn't get to, or characters that we need to flesh out a little more? Or?
I'm good.
Not really. It's like I said, it's box standard harem. So
yeah. Now, Brittany, you said before that a lot of the first season was filler, but you also
a lot of the first season is filler. I haven't watched. Yeah, once Lala's sisters come into play, and they come into play in the later seasons, plus the OVA, as you mentioned, is where they're introduced. That's a lot more towards the manga, because the sisters play a larger role in there. But I have not watched enough of the seasons after, because I kind of want to see the introduction of the sisters myself, which is on that OVA that, God love it. You're missing that one piece of the puzzle, and it's just like, it's not solvable. You just do a jump, basically, in the story.
I don't even know what the story is there. Does anyone else? Because I feel like I'm almost sure it's the same people behind the OVA.
Well, it is. I mean, it's basically slice of life comedy. It's just continuous jokes. If you've seen season 1, it's kind of the same with season 2.
It just makes you wonder why Sentai never bothered to license it, especially if it's the same people.
It could have. I mean, there's any number. It could be any other known reasons. Japan's fussy that way.
Yeah. But it is unfortunate. We did see the OVA probably through sublegal means. But again, it's never had an American release, so there. If I get a chance soon. I hope if I get a chance soon to start watching Blu-rays again, I would like to watch my collection, which does include Moto to Loveru and the first 2 seasons of Troubled Darkness.
Well,
I believe
those are
as
on
well.
High Dive as well. They're on High Dive as well.
There, yeah.
So.
But that's what I'm
In
saying.
fact, those seasons are actually on the app. It's just the first season that's on the website only. The other seasons are on the app. So
I don't bother with apps, so I would end up watching it off the site anyway. But yeah, I might go ahead and do that sometime if I find the time, because I would like to see the further seasons. I would say maybe as far as I got in the story, but as far as this one, I said we would take a little bit on the production. And I know, Brittany, you're the resident animator, but from my layman's perspective, I feel like this is a pretty decently animated series. It certainly looks good for the most part. I feel like the character designs are appealing, and there wasn't a lot of jankiness or terrible background.
The first season,
I noticed.
The first season, I believe, was done through Gonzo.
Okay.
So I want to double check and make sure what I can see here on the anime. On who actually did it.
And how do you say XEBEC? How do they? Is that Zebek?
Zebek.
Yeah, they've got them listed. Actually, I don't even think I see Gonzo listed at all.
Gonzo might have been the production company, I think. I could be wrong. I know Gonzo pretty much closed not too long after that. So the seasons, Zebek might have just taken the series elsewhere from that point. Okay. But yeah, it's the production-wise, animation-wise, it's pretty decent. There's not really any major anime mistakes I could see. Zebek wasn't really known for too many series, I think, beforehand. Oh no, I take it back. They had Nadesco for one. They did Zoids. They did Love Hina, bringing that back up there. Shaman King. And they did Nagama. So another connection there that we talked about. So yeah, they put together the series. Yeah, they're a decent animation studio. A mistake or two may be made here or there, but it's less noticeable. They didn't really use CGI in the series that I could tell. Mm-hmm. Given at the time of making this, the CGI would be horrible, no matter what. So it'd be glaring if it was CGI. Actually, no, I take it back. Some of the plants were CGI in that final battle.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, overall, the production-wise, animation-wise, I'd say it's a decent anime to go with. So.
And notably, the Rito is played by Akano Watanabe, who is a very talented seiyuu, one that I enjoy a lot. His sister is Kana Hanazawa, another pretty big name. You got Misato Fukuen as Golden Darkness. You got Takehito Koyasu as Zastine. You got some pretty fun names in the main cast. And then you got a lot of interesting people in the supporting cast. Aya Hizakawa's in there. Chiyosato, Daisuke Namakawa, Jun Kono, Kapi Yamaguchi, Ranma. He shows up in one episode. So you got a pretty good cast there. Mostly, I would say, people who were working pretty steadily at that time. And then
All right.
what's up?
I just found an interesting combination of three of the people we've mentioned in this series that aren't connected, but did feature illustrations in the color books released for it. Akira Toriyama, who's his former, instructor where he worked. Rumoko Takahashi was one of the contributors to the color book, and Ichitaro Oda. One Piece fan. All of them did color drawings based for this series.
I'd be curious to see some of those. It's like each of them does have a very distinctive art style. Be interesting to see.
I mean, the creator of this series, basically, as I said, he created one of the Gotenks creations for Toriyama. So if you remember the moment in the Boost Saga season of Dragon Ball Z,
still need to see.
Yeah, I mean it's Gohan or it's not Gohan. It's Goku's second son and Vegeta's son fusing together, and he created them. Which I'm guessing is probably the fat one. That he created.
Right. So another notable name that I know will mean something to Brandon. Our opening theme, Forever We Can Make It, is by the group Time, who I know you did your all-time favorite anime theme. And when are you going to be trying to do Sunday's Dreamers 2? You think that's when we'll be hitting eventually?
That one is an interesting series, and as I love the opener, but the series itself is very dry. So, though good, it's hard to get through in a quick fashion.
I will say the opener to this series is very memorable, especially for the fan service.
Very much so. It's a great yes. If we ultimately one day do those videos we talked about with the openers and enders, I think this is a strong contender for mine because I love the song. It is catchy as hell, and I do love the animation. It is fan servicey as hell, but it's also very creative, I think, and decently. There's not a lot of motion in it, but it's nicely drawn in it.
It's just camera panning. It's just camera. All it is camera panning because it basically focuses on the character and then it zooms into some point in the picture to have the credit.
Yeah.
I really do. Actually, I do enjoy the first ender of the series. I don't really enjoy the whole of it, but I do really like the way it opens up with the little spotlight just coming on with the little jingle at the beginning and then them starting to move around. I do like that concept.
We have
artistic.
We have two ending themes. Yeah, two ending themes by Anna. And the first one's called Lucky Tune, and it's kind of presented as a Lala sort of tune. And then Kiss something or other, it's written in Japanese, I can't tell what the full title is more of a Sarenji type song. It's slower and more meditative. Lucky Tune is very, like you said, it's very bouncy, which I guess is appropriate. And it's got vaguely dirty lyrics, but mostly it's more and then again lots of fan service in the visuals. But I really do love all three of the themes, but the second ender is the weakest of the three for me. I don't
agree with you there.
What's that?
I said I'll agree with you there.
Yeah. I don't honestly remember the background music all that well for the main series, but I feel like it did its job well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so generally I'll give this a pretty solid recommendation for the music. And like I said, if you can look at the two together, the music and the production design, the animation, it's a very appealing package. So, I know that I know Roger had said that he found the show incredibly dull, and that was one of the reasons he didn't join us tonight. But I honestly, a show like this could be incredibly dull, but it would still have my interest. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so pretty. It's entertaining.
It's a good solid anime.
But everyone,
period.
Yeah, everyone's got their own thing, and some people have different things they're looking for. But for me, with anime, there are ones that really get under your skin and just really, like, the story is phenomenal. There are those, but a lot of times I'm just like going along for the ride, and I don't really care too much if it's the deepest thing on earth. Now, I have seen harem-style anime that I found tedious and dull. The one that comes to mind is Akikan. Did not get into that show. It was diverting while I watched it, but yeah,
I thought it was okay, but it wasn't great for me.
It was aggressively mediocre, I thought. It just aggressively mediocre. But that's the one that comes to mind. If I think of one that just almost bored me,
I could think of one that was downright offensive. I mean, Onii was one I considered outright offensive when I watched it. I rarely take an anime and then get rid of it once I've had it. That was one I did.
I mean, harem anime are either turn off or turn ons. And like I said, I mean, when I stated, I'm not really a harem anime fan. There are a lot of harem anime that I just look at it once and I'm like, no, not going to watch it.
Right.
So, I mean, there is a certain amount of people that'll be like, no, I just don't want to see this. It could be either gender that you're going for, or all genders if you're going for.
It makes sense,
Well, the good thing is that we're out of the age of the harem and we're into the age of the isekai. Though I think we're finally starting to run down on that, but you never know.
They're beating it to death. I will say that much. There's a lot of good isekai, but there's also a lot of really bad ones. And I reviewed 4 of them in one season, and they were terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I need to see more recent shows generally. I've seen far too few recent ones, but I haven't been doing a lot of anime lately. I need to see more.
A lot of good series out right now. A lot of them being sequels, though.
Yeah.
So second or third seasons of shows, with the exception of Oshinoko. That's if you want to see a series that is top of the line right now. That is going to be memorized for years as long as the story holds up. And I think at this point, because it's only 12 episodes long, technically 11, because the release today was a filler. Well, a clip show more. And it's slightly annoying, but at the same time, the show is just so well done and so compelling. And the internet is ablaze with how the show treats, especially social media attacks, fandom attacks. It is the dark side of entertainment industry on display with that one. Not very, not humorous at all in this sense.
My understanding is that they marketed it, at least at first, as from the people who did Kaguya-sama Love is War. That's another one I still
same creator, and he created it at the same time. So I mean, you got to respect him. He's doing Kaguya-sama as a weekly and Oshinoko as a monthly. So
I will say this: Kaguya-sama has two, arguably three of the best openers that I've seen or heard. I just absolutely fell in love with all three of those things. But
the series is enjoyable. I haven't gotten far enough in Kageyama.
Well, why don't we get back to this series?
Yeah. Well, I was just about to say, let's go ahead and do. Unless if we have any last minute notes on the production or anything related to it.
No, but I do think we should each pick out our favorite girl in the series.
Well, I was going to say favorites will be next, yes. And Brittany, why don't we start with you? We'll do favorite character, favorite scene or sequence or what have you in the show, and then just for shits and giggles, we'll say what would you say is probably your top harem series.
Okay, favorite character. That's kind of easy. I kind of really like the joke of Run and Ran. I like the gender bender's funny, but also the fact that you have a polarizing character, and that they got abused by the main character just because they were cute. Favorite scene, I'm gonna have to say, gosh, probably my favorite scene is I would say when the doctor is dealing with all the patients coming into her office. It's the same episode, I think, that the hot hotels put in, but it's the doctor having to deal with all these people, and then Zastin coming in with a dog biting his ass, and just being like, "Can you help me with this problem?"
Right.
Favorite harem. See, that's the tricky one. I mean, this is on my top list for a harem anime. I mean, I have to give it to Ursa Yusura for being the first. So, if it weren't for that, we wouldn't have this category.
Oh, it would have happened, but it may have looked very different. How about you, Brandon?
Well, favorite character or girl, I guess you could say, would be the magical girl that burns everything down. As far as I would say, just as an episode, even though I really didn't like most of the second half of the series, I really liked that hotel episode. I don't know why. I just thought it was hilarious.
They were succeeding at something for once.
And then, of course, my favorite harem, that's probably, as long as you count it as a harem, I would say Ranma 1/2.
You could, certainly.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a toxic harem, I'd say.
It is, but it's a very fun show and manga.
Right. Now, of course, you could say most of the relationships in Nurse Ayatsu are pretty toxic too.
Yeah.
That's true of a lot of these.
And Taru is the most toxic of them all.
One of the reasons why Ukiyo was always one of my favorites was because I felt like there was some toxicity in her relationship with Ranma, but it was nowhere compared to the other three. It was nowhere near as bad, I thought. But anyway, of course, my favorite is probably still Yami. Although not by as commanding a lead as she would have had at first. And really, I really like Lala, Haruna, and Mikan. I like all three of them as characters. So it's
You like all the girls.
not all of them. In fact, the Ojo-sama character annoys me. She annoys me.
A lot of people hated her.
But yeah, I gotta give at least the slight edge to Golden Darkness. And again, I think probably my favorite moment might be the one where she's looking for work. I just was so amused by that. It would just say the reactions people would have when she said she was looking for assassin work. It was just kind of hilarious. And actually probably the part that Brittany cited earlier in the water park where they did all that, or ruined it, all that stuff, and it was just an hour, and just, I don't know, I was amused by that. And there's other moments too, but I guess I'll go with that. And as far as the harems go, as far as like a full-on, most of my favorite harem-y animes are the ones that are kind of on the edge of it. If we're saying full-on, full-blown, this is a harem, there are no two ways about it, it would either be this one or Clannad. But of course, Clannad morphs into After Story, which I consider to be less of a harem and more of just a relationship drama. And After Story is still one of my favorite anime. One could make a similar argument for Maison Ikkoku, which is still my favorite anime. And I will say, if one counts Ranma as a harem, I'd have to have it up there too. But there definitely are some awful entrants in this genre, but there are some good ones. And like I said, a lot of them, another one that's right on the edge would be Toradora. I think that's another really good potential, but it's kind of right on the edge because it's more of a rom-com than a pop.
It's more of a rom-com. It's not really a harem.
Yeah. I think that one and Ikkoku are more rom-coms than, but they have those moments that make you wonder. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But I guess a lot of rom-coms do. So yeah. So anyway, we'll say that, and that's probably another thing to explore down the road is like a proper rom-com, because I don't think we've done one of those yet. Toradora is one we need to hit one.
We haven't done a romance either.
What's up?
But if we haven't done a romance either, but I mean that we'll hit July and that'll hit in that category some. So.
All right. So I think we've probably done as good a job of wrapping this one up as we're going to. Apologies to anyone out there who's been waiting for like 3 months to hear this discussion.
Well,
some of us were done 3 months ago. We're done a while ago.
Yeah, lots of stuff happened. But this week has been an amazing shot of life into the channel. We've had 3 videos this week. We had a pickup video.
Right.
We've had a psychoanalysis video, which, by the way, is also one of the special features on a release that is coming very shortly. There's going to be a giveaway. And matter of fact, 2 of us are actually involved in that particular release because Brittany did the art for it, which is the Anhedenia Filmz animation collection, which will be out next week.
To be straight, I did the DVD art.
Not the art for the animation. That would probably be a detriment to you. But also very labor of love, to be sure. But that video is also one of the extras on that. So it's going to be 2 actual mainstream releases that I have. One of my channel's videos as an extra for. So that's Of course, it also makes a difference that I was the one who officially released them. But both of those actually were approved by the original creators of the movies involved. So that is a cool thing. So, Brittany, what is it that you're up to these days?
Well, I've been rather busy taking care of some personal stuff. And we are slowly going to be coming back with an old original comic that we've been doing, Demon Blade. We're going to be coming in with a new comic yet to be announced. I still have not announced the title of that series. And we are going to be back to streaming. All of that should be coming out hopefully by, I'd like to say next month, but by July at least, it looks like. I don't want to put it in a solid thing that it'll be that month because we're still waiting for certain things to happen. But hopefully by then we'll be doing things. But you definitely start seeing the comic stuff come up if you're a patron sponsor. You're not going to see much coming up otherwise. But yeah, and that's what's going on with me. You're going to be seeing new videos once we get going. We're going to have a streaming schedule, regular streaming schedule, with a lot of new and interesting ideas and concepts. So I hope you all will join in for that.
All right. Well, I guess otherwise, of course, keep an eye on this channel with me and Jake. We're working on projects steadily and slowly, but you won't see them here for a little while. But if you really want to hear us both talk, at the end of next month, we'll be doing Cromartie High School. So we'll be back for that, including Roger. And if you want to see more of Dave and Ron, you can check out Inside Movies Galore or Delusions of Grandeur because they're there. And of course, me and Jake are on Inside Movies Galore. So we'll be covering, what was it? Don't Worry, Darling, next week.
And actually, we did cover an anime this week, Makoto Shinkai's Weathering with You. So check that out if you haven't already. All right.
All right.
Is that it? We're signing off?
Yeah.
Night, everybody.
Good night.